Whenever you are looking to reinvent yourself, it is really important to have an intentional community around you. I don't think I would have left my tech job and started the coaching business if I didn't meet other women doing similar things online. I don't think I would have had the guts to do it because everybody around me told me that I was crazy. Welcome to the Chingona Revolution podcast, where we will bring out your inner badass Latina, overcome self-doubt, help you gain clarity, and pave your own path, all while leading with courage. I am your host, Latina coach and speaker, Erica Cruz. Hello. Welcome back to this week's episode of Chingona Revolution podcast. In this episode, I am going to share a recent webinar. Actually, I just did the webinar last night, all about 4 proven steps to reinvent yourself in just 90 days. This was a free webinar that I hosted. It is sponsored by my group program, Courage Driven Latina. So at the end of the webinar, I do tell you more about the program because the doors are officially open. They just opened last night and we are currently in the bonus period. So whenever you join Courage Driven Latina, you get a one-on-one call with a Courage Driven Latina coach to help you pick out your courage project and plan out your first 90 days inside of the program. If you know that you've been wanting to join this program, there is no better time than now. This program is a year long, so you get to work with me for an entire year. We've also made this program more accessible. It has gone from the price point of $29.99, so $2,999, down to $2,222. So that's $777 off. And there are payment options available. So if you want to learn how to reinvent yourself in just 90 days and learn the 4 different strategies that have helped me and many, many clients, then stick around to listen to this webinar because it is very, very valuable. All right, let's get into it. Today, we are learning 4 proven steps to reinvent yourself in just 90 days. This webinar is sponsored by Courage Driven Latina, so it is a completely free webinar because my program is sponsoring it. You will learn more about Courage Driven Latina at the end of the webinar. I will let you know when the teaching part of the webinar is done and when I'm going to start talking to you about Courage Driven Latina, so that way you know. So by the end of this webinar and workshop, you are going to learn why it is that you resist change, how you can stop resisting it, and how it's possible to reinvent yourself. And it doesn't have to take a long time. It doesn't have to be difficult. You can do it in 90 days. And I'm going to show you the 4 strategies that have helped me and over 200 clients reinvent ourselves, not just once, but a few times, especially me over and over. I've had to reinvent myself many times, just like you have as well. But many times this reinvention happens as a reaction to a change that happens outside of us, or maybe we're forced to change. So how can you intentionally reinvent yourself to something that you actually want to become, to do something that you want to do? That's what we're going to cover today. Okay, so you are in the right place if you are the clarity seeker. So this is that you are looking for clarity on your purpose and you aren't sure exactly where you want to go next in life, but you know that you are ready to reinvent yourself. Okay, if you resonate with this, you can let me know, but there's a few more and you might resonate with more than one. The second one is the hesitator. So you know what it is that you want to do, but you haven't gotten yourself to do it. So maybe you get started and then you back up and then you want to start again and you feel like you lack experience. Maybe you've been telling yourself, oh, I need to go get a certification before I can do this, or I just need to do more research. That's how you know if you fall into the hesitator category. You're also in the right place if you know that you've been playing small. So maybe you already got started. You already know what it is that you want to do, and you already got started on your dreams of either starting a business or a project or on working on your confidence, but you know that you are playing small. And the last one is the rebel. So maybe you have felt like the black sheep or the unicorn of your family, AKA the cycle breaker. I think everybody here probably resonates with this one. And you don't really feel like you belong in your current groups, maybe in your family, maybe in your friend group, maybe with your coworkers. And it's really hard to reinvent yourself when you feel alone because you're so different. So go ahead and tell me in the chat of the numbers, which ones resonate with you. And you could put a few down because I know that a lot of these resonate with many of us. Okay, Kay said, I want to start my own business, have financial freedom, and work on the hours that I choose. And then Jacqueline says number 2 and number 4. Jen said 2 and 4. Barbara said number 1. I'll wait till they keep coming. The hesitator. Kay, I thought the same thing for you as well. I know you in real life. So as I was writing this, I was like, Kay falls in this category. Norma is number 2 as well, the hesitator. Lilium said 1, 3, and 4. Amazing, amazing. All right, keep those coming in. I'm going to keep going just for the sake of time. So here's what you want. You want to reinvent yourself, but you feel stuck in your life or in your business, and any attempt maybe lasts a week or two. So maybe you do start to create change, but it doesn't last a long time. Or maybe you find yourself comparing yourself to everyone on social media or in real life, wondering when your time will come. Maybe you feel like it's too late to start. I can't tell you how many times people have told me, oh, it's too late for me, or I'm too old. And that's so not true, but that's why we're here today. And then this one's a big one. Maybe you are relying on motivation to take action. Maybe you're telling yourself, oh, I just don't feel motivated to do this. And you're waiting to feel motivation in order to actually take action. But the thing about being ready is that being ready is not a feeling, it's a decision, right? It's not something we feel, it's something we have to decide. And then maybe your self-doubt takes over. So maybe you hear thoughts in your head of like, what if I fail? My life isn't that bad, right? My life isn't that bad. I should just be grateful. As much as like, yes, we should always be grateful, but sometimes that thought brings us right back to the comfort zone. Or another one, what are people going to say about me? ¿Qué va a decir la gente? Or I can't be too successful, or else people will say I forget where I came from, or I'll lose my community, or my family won't want to talk to me anymore, or my family's going to ask me for money, right? Sometimes not only do we fear failure, we fear success as well. So here's what you want. You want to reinvent yourself, not just because, oh my gosh, I want to become a new version of me. Yes, that's true as well. But you also want to do something meaningful. You want to either land a new job, make a decision on your purpose and actually get started. Maybe you're like, okay, I know I've always enjoyed arts and crafts and I've always enjoyed being creative. I know I want to start a candle business, but I'm ready to make that decision and then go after it. Oh, here we go. So that you can start the candle, the lash, or the coaching business that you've always dreamt of. Maybe you want to start an Instagram page, maybe a financial literacy page for people of color, or maybe you want to start an Instagram page that educates people on how to cook vegan meals that are culturally, like maybe you come from Guatemala or from Mexico and you're like, I want to teach people how to eat vegan Mexican food. And then you want to start that, but actually post, right? How many times do we not see new Instagram pages started, but they're not consistent? They're almost like created and abandoned. So what you really want to do is you not just want to start it, you want to actually be able to post it and impact people and do something with it. Or maybe you want to go on the date, right? Maybe you recently went through a divorce and you're like, I am ready to attract the relationship that is fulfilling, that is healthy, that makes me feel my best, one that I could be my full authentic self in. But it takes a lot of courage to date after heartbreak, to date after a divorce, or to date if you've never dated before. I've actually had somebody in my program who'd never gone on a date, and we worked on her confidence. And then the next thing we worked on was her going on dates. Maybe you want to ask for a raise at work. Or you just want confidence that makes you glow. That confidence where you're like, it doesn't matter what anybody says to me. I know who I am and I like who I am. What are you all looking to do? I should have made these numbers to make it easier for you. Is it a job? Is it maybe you want to launch a podcast? What is the thing that you want to reinvent yourself to be able to do? Somebody had already told me that it was building confidence. Somebody had mentioned building confidence in the chat, but what else? What else are you all looking to do? Is it starting a business? Is it reinventing myself to be financially savvy? Yes, amazing. Be more financial freedom to travel or to live in another country. I'm all about that. I've done that a few times. I'm going to keep going, but feel free to all of the above: confidence, raise, date, make a decision, being more confident in myself when it comes to my business. Awesome. Okay, so if we don't know each other, hi, my name is Erica Cruz. I am a coach, I'm a speaker, I'm also a podcast host. And I'm trying to figure out why this isn't. Let me just quickly do one of these. Oh, great. Now we're starting from the beginning. That's okay. Okay, there it is. Okay, and I have reinvented myself many times. A lot of you I may know in person. Some of you may actually be clients of mine. I know a lot of clients signed up for this. And maybe some of you have, maybe this was sent to you. Maybe you just heard about me because of this webinar. So I'm just going to tell you a little bit about me. I've reinvented myself many, many times. I was not good at school. I was a straight C student, but somehow I ended up graduating from UC Berkeley. And then the last semester that I was there, I ended up with straight A's. Like, talk about completely reinventing my identity, the way that, like, my habits, the way that I showed up. It was a total opposite. It was from one extreme to the other. And then the next thing is that I didn't know a thing about tech, but when I graduated from Berkeley, I ended up getting a job in the tech industry. And then I worked there for 8 years in over 6 positions. And I negotiated my way up to a six-figure salary when I was in my 20s. And we'll get more into that later. But while I was at the tech job, I was like, I feel like I'm missing something creative. And this doesn't feel very fulfilling to me. And I ended up starting a food blog while I was still working in tech. I did that for about a year and a half. And then I outgrew it because I started practicing yoga. And I was like, you know what? I really like yoga. I like the self-development component of it. I like the mindfulness component. So then I became a yoga instructor. And then the pandemic forced me to reinvent myself again because I got my certification at the end of 2019, and at the beginning of 2020, all of the gyms closed. And in California, they stayed closed for quite a while. So I was forced to pivot. And then I started to create content on TikTok, and I started to create content about yoga, mindfulness, self-development. But anytime I posted about self-development, that took off. So that is when I launched my coaching business. I ended up leaving tech. I became a full-time entrepreneur. And in that time of being a full-time entrepreneur, I've since launched a podcast. I've coached over, in total, from all my programs and one-on-one, over 250 women I've coached. And my business grew to 1 million total in sales from my childhood room, which I never thought I would be back here. And that was in just under 3 years. And this year, I actually stopped drinking alcohol, which was a whole thing, being a Latina, being Mexican, and, like, literally what we do is drink for social time and when we hang out with our family. So I'm constantly reinventing myself. And even though in, 10 years ago, I wasn't necessarily using the steps that I'm going to show you today, I now use them, and it's allowing me to get from point A to point B so much faster. The last thing I have here is that I went from being a very insecure teenager and young adult to then suddenly being on the front page of the New York Times and sharing valuable stories with an audience of up to 600 people in real life. I'm sorry, not valuable, vulnerable stories. I talked about calling off an engagement to a group of 600 people, and it was a very vulnerable share. It was also streamed on LA TV, so a bunch of people saw it. And it's just crazy how you can go from one extreme to the other if you give yourself the chance. Let me just make sure there's no questions. Confidence, find my purpose, expand my growth. Cool. Great. Welcome, Araceli and Jen. And all right. Okay, thank you all for your engagement. I appreciate it. So I am here to tell you that you can reinvent yourself. And then you can also not just reinvent yourself once, you can do it over and over again, as you should, because you are not the same person that you were last year or the year before or 10 years ago or when you were in that toxic relationship, or when you were working that job when you were mistreated, or when you attempted to start a business but didn't really know much and maybe it flopped. You are not the same person then as you are now. But change is not easy. I told you all that I was going to explain to you why change is hard. And this is why. The first thing is just from an evolutionary perspective. So our brains have actually not changed very much from when our ancestors lived in tribes. So our brains are really focused on survival. And change does not really equal survival when you're living in the wild. So our brain likes familiarity. And this is actually a quote from an article I found specifically about this by Chanel Moulin. From an evolutionary perspective, it makes sense that familiarity leads to comfort. Something you're familiar with is less likely to hurt you, or at least hurt you in an unexpected way. We don't want to risk the unfamiliar. So your brain, when you are looking to do something and you are deciding between staying in your comfort zone or expanding outside of it, your brain's always going to tell you to go back to the comfort zone, because if you were out in the wild and you were taking a different path back home, you could literally be eaten by a lion. That's really what's going on in our brain. And our brain thinks that that danger, this unknown, is a lion out in the open. And it's hard to create intentional change because we fear the unknown. But it makes sense that we fear the unknown, because if a few hundred years ago we were walking back to our tribe, maybe getting water from the water hole, and then you hear something in the bushes, your brain is not going to go, oh my gosh, I bet there's a cute little fairy on that side. Your brain's going to go, oh shit, that might be a lion, run. Because our brain is wired for survival. And familiarity allows us to stay safe and outside of the risk. So from a brain perspective, it makes a lot of sense. But in today's day, a lion is not going to go out to eat us. Your brain is reacting in the same way when you're in a meeting and you're like, oh my gosh, I think I should speak up because I have something valuable to say. And then your self-doubt gets in the way and you don't say anything. Your brain thinks that whoever's speaking in that meeting is the lion who's going to eat you. And that's not the case anymore. Is this making sense so far? We went pretty deep, pretty quick. Maybe just put a number 1 in the chat if this makes sense to you. Amazing. All right. Thank you all so much. I appreciate it. Okay, reason number 2, you're going to like this one. I actually came up with this one this morning right after kickboxing. So change is not easy. And here's the second reason. Your circle of people wants to keep you the same because it's who they know. Stick with me. So your friend group, your family, your partner, they want to keep you the same because it's who they know and who they love. It's not because they don't want you to grow, but they just have learned to know you as this version of you. So when your partner says, oh, you're going to try another hobby, remember whenever you took up knitting and you bought all that stuff and there it is sitting there? Well, that's going to shut you down. And it's not because your partner doesn't want you to go try another hobby, right? But they've been there to see the old version of you, and they're constantly reminding you of the old version of you. Or if your mom says, you don't know how to coach people, how are you going to start a career coaching business? And they're reminding you of who you were in the past, not who it is that you're looking to become. This is why it's really difficult to reinvent ourselves when our circle and our environment stays exactly the same. Again, no hate to the partner, no hate to the mom. They typically have the best intentions. When I told my mom I was leaving a tech job, which in her mind was the ultimate American dream, she really sat me down and wanted to make sure that I was okay mentally, because she couldn't comprehend why I would want to leave a stable and secure job to go make TikTok videos. And she didn't understand what I was doing. And of course she didn't. TikTok wasn't even a thing whenever she was, I mean, it literally wasn't a thing until 2019, until the end of 2019 is when it really picked up traction. So sometimes we want to look at the people around us and blame them, but they just don't understand where it is that we're looking to go. I actually have this analogy. I'm going off on a little tangent here, but I think it's helpful. I don't have my prescription glasses here, but let's say that you were prescription glasses and I do too. If you and I switched our prescription glasses, we wouldn't be able to see out of the prescription glasses, right? So whenever we want our immediate circle to see our vision, we're pretty much doing that. We're giving them our prescription glasses and we're like, can't you see? Well, no, because that vision's for you. It's not for them. And maybe somebody who has a similar vision as you is going to get you, but the people closest to you might not. And it's so funny that my mom thought, oh my gosh, you're leaving the stable job, because I think we all learned in the last few years, nothing is certain, right? Change is going to happen whether you want it to or not. I just want you all to intentionally change, which is why we are all here today. But the company that I worked for ended up going out of business. Everybody got laid off. If I wouldn't have quit that tech job, I would have been without a job less than a year later. Isn't that crazy? So, such a good analogy. Oh, thank you. And all right, this is supposed to say number 3. But you know what? We show up imperfectly, because showing up imperfectly is better than not showing up at all. The third reason is because we fear failure, right? We resist it. We don't want to fail. We don't want to try. And if we don't want to try and fail, but if we don't try, we can't fail. So it's almost like, again, keeping us back in that comfort zone. And this one's very connected to number 1, but I just thought I would throw in the fear of failure here, because if you knew you could succeed, you'd probably still go after it. But the funny thing is we actually learn so much more from failure than we do from succeeding. So much more from failure. And we'll talk about this a little bit more later on. Okay, so here's what you think the solution is. Let's start to get into solutions and strategies. You think that the solution is that your outside circumstances need to change so that you can reinvent yourself. If this doesn't make sense to you, don't worry. I know it's really wordy. I have a lot of examples. So you think, okay, in order for me to change who I am, the things around me need to change. And you think, yeah, my reality needs to change and then I can change. But like, here's how I know. You may sound something like, oh, once I get a pay raise, I'm going to feel abundant. Or maybe when I get the new job, I'm going to feel fulfilled in my career. Or I'm just waiting until XYZ and then everything's going to be fine. And then it's all going to be good. As soon as this thing is settled, everything's going to be okay. I'm going to feel confident. Or you might be saying, you know what? Once I land a client, then I can call myself a coach. Or once I lose the weight, then I'll be confident. Put a number 2 in the chat if you are comfortable enough to share with us that you have said something similar to this. I know I have. I was like, when I make 6 figures, then I'm going to be good. And then I made 6 figures and I was like, oh my gosh, who am I to make 6 figures? I don't even know how to manage my money. Oh, yeah, literally everybody in here put a number 2 down. Yes. Okay, so here's why this solution does not work. This does not work because you keep thinking the same thoughts and the same feelings. And if you take the same actions, then you're going to keep creating the same reality. So whenever you're thinking the same thoughts, taking the same actions, you just keep creating the same result over and over, because the definition of insanity is to keep taking the same actions but expect different results. And the second reason, and almost the most important reason, is that conditions are never going to be perfect. Life is going to life. So let me bring up those examples one more time. Let's say that you do get a pay raise. Are you actually going to feel abundant, or do you really just need to learn to manage your money? Because maybe the problem wasn't even how much you made in the first place. Maybe the problem was how you were managing your money. Or when I get a new job, I'm going to feel fulfilled in my career. Well, I hate to break it to you, but every job is going to have its downsides. And there's going to be things you don't like about every job. And if you're waiting for your job to make you feel fulfilled, you're setting yourself up for failure, because what if you're laid off? What if there's a shift in your position? Well, you can't make the feeling of fulfillment something outside of you. Or I'm just waiting until the kids get older and then everything will be okay, because then I can leave this relationship. Or I'm just waiting until I save enough money. And then once I save enough money, everything's going to be fine because I'm going to feel safe. Or When I land the client, I can call myself the coach. Well, when are you going to land a client unless you call yourself a coach? When I lose the weight, I'll be confident. Trust me, if you are making confidence a destination like this, there's always going to be more weight to lose. There's always going to be new things to change about yourself. Like, oh, well, once my skin clears up, then I'll feel confident. Once I get a boyfriend, then I'll feel confident. Once I get a girlfriend, then I'll feel confident. It's almost as if we keep making change a moving target. And that's why this solution does not work. Back to the example of whenever I started making six figures, I remember thinking, okay, once I make six figures, I'm going to be happy. I'm going to be confident. And then somehow I negotiated my 20 something, I was like probably 25 or 26. And I negotiated the salary and I went to 101. So I was like, I'm over six figures. And I remember going home and I thought I was going to feel ecstatic. And I went home and I was like, who do I think I am? What if they fire me because now they're paying me so much? Now they're going to expect so much more of me. Oh my gosh, who am I to make six figures? What if I don't know how to manage my money? I mean, it was not what you thought. And then the other one was, oh, I was telling myself, once I have a website, then I can call myself a food blogger. But then I created a website for my blog. And then I was not even a food blogger for over a year and a half. And the blog did not make me more legit because I still didn't really know what I was doing. I still never made $1 from the food blog. Oh, I don't even think I shared the food blog. If you've been following me, you know, I also had a food blog in between all of that. Oh, no, I did share it at the beginning. I did share it. All right. So if someone says no to working with you, you may take it as a sign that coaching isn't for you if you are waiting to make your results the evidence of who you are. Or if you get laid off, then you may start believe that you're not good enough, right? Like, again, back to this example where once I get a new career, then I'm going to feel fulfilled. But like, what if you're laid off? Then what? You're no longer fulfilled. So in other words, with this solution, you are waiting for life to happen to you instead of creating the life that you want. Okay, I'm going to say that one more time. A lot of us, including myself, until recently, a lot of us are waiting for life to happen to us instead of creating the life that we want. So let me tell you the solution that will work. You have to change who you are by changing the opinion that you have about yourself. You are the only person that you have control over. You cannot go control what's happening with the job. You cannot control what's happening for a company with the company you work for. You can't control what's happening in your partner's mind. You can't control what's happening with people outside of you, any circumstances outside of you. And the thing is that when you change the way you see things, the things you see change. And I'm going to give you an example of how this has probably already happened in your life. Have you ever been in a scenario that just felt like it felt crappy and you're like, okay, and you're trying to find all the solutions for it. And you just like keep poking holes at it. And then maybe a work situation, just because that one seems to be the easiest, or like a relationship situation. And you keep telling yourself like, oh, like, how am I going to fix this? And you're trying to control it and trying to control it. And then it doesn't get better. And finally you're like, you know what? I don't care. I don't even care. I'm just happy to have a job right now. It's not that big of a deal. And then suddenly like solutions come. And it's simply because you stopped fixating and trying to control what was outside of you. And you controlled the only thing you have control over, which is this, your mind. That is the only thing you have control over. Your mind, your actions, your reactions, and the way that you show up. We cannot control anyone else as much as we try. Okay, so here's why this strategy works. And then so this is the solution, and then I have 4 different strategies for this. So this works because regardless of what happens outside of you, you are still solid. Let me give you some examples. Let's say that you want to start a coaching program or a coaching business, and somebody says no to working with you, no problem. You go find another client, because that one person wasn't defining your identity. They weren't part of like, oh yeah, I'm going to be reinvented once this person becomes my client. No, you are already the reinvention. And the client that's for you is going to work out. You got laid off? No problem. you'll find a job that pays you more and is even more aligned. I've had so many clients go through this where they get laid off and then they end up finding a better job, something that pays them better and something that is more aligned with them. They like their work environment a lot more. Again, no job is perfect, but they're just in a much better situation. Doesn't work out with that guy? All right, he wasn't meant for you. Hit a hurdle starting your podcast? Well, no worries, because there are so many options for launching podcasts. So the reason this strategy works is because when obstacles occur, it doesn't derail you. It just teaches you. And let me just give you some examples from my clients who've taken this approach. And then we're going to go over the 4 strategies that I've used for them and for them and myself. So here it is that here's the way that I've helped my clients reinvent themselves. And this is what happens when you change the way that you think about yourself, when you change the opinion you have about yourself. So Liz went from struggling to set boundaries to becoming a fully booked boundary coach. I mean, this girl couldn't set boundaries, learned about boundaries, and then joined the program of Courage Driven Latina, which you'll learn about later, and ended up becoming a boundary coach. Sunkin went from being in not 1, but 2 toxic work environments. She actually was working at 2 jobs that were very toxic to the point where HR had to get involved. Like there was probably potential lawsuits that were happening. It was pretty bad. And she went from these toxic work environments to becoming a yoga instructor. And now she's looking at opening up a coaching business with therapy and yoga. So like some type of coaching that involves like self-development with yoga together. So a whole mind-body experience. Olivia went from a poetry lover to a published author. Anai went from being a podcast listener to a podcast host. All of these started with how they thought about themselves. And they have all reinventing themselves, not by waiting to have the podcast first and then believing she could be a podcaster. It started with her believing that people needed her podcast and that she was the right person for it to then go and create the podcast. For Olivia, she could have just kept reading poetry forever and just written in her journal and never shared it anywhere else. She had to believe that her poetry mattered. Sunkin as well. She could have stayed in toxic work environments. She could have gone to a different toxic job, but she was really able to change the way she saw herself and saw value in becoming a yoga instructor. Same thing with Liz. If Liz would have waited until she had her first client, she would never be a coach because she did not. When I first met her, I remember she was like, oh, I just don't know if I can call myself a coach yet. And I have more on Liz actually later on. She was on the podcast recently, but she was really struggling to set these boundaries. And then she was like, okay, well, now I know that I want to help people with boundaries, but I don't feel like I can call myself a coach until I've had a client. And I told her, well, you have to call yourself a coach to land your first client. So now you may be wondering, like, how in the world do we do this then? How do I change the opinion I have of myself? How do we execute this solution? And I'm going to share 4 different strategies with you today. The first one is what we call identity work. It is the thoughts, the beliefs, and the opinion that you have about yourself and your abilities. It's pretty much, how do you think about yourself? How do you show up? How do you present yourself? How do you talk about yourself to yourself and to other people? And this is why identity work is so important. This is actually from Bob Proctor. If you've never seen, he's actually already passed. I think he passed this year or last year, but has an amazing work in the self-development world. And he says, without exception, I have found that 5% of a person's success has to do with strategy and plans. The remaining 95% has to do with mindset, with the way you think about yourself, with identity work. This accounts for why ordinary people often achieve ordinary success and why brilliant people can struggle to make things happen. This is huge, right? A lot of us are like, well, just tell me how. And I'm going to tell you how as well. But all of us feel like we just need to know the best strategy. We need to know what to do and how to do it. But what I'm saying is, who do you need to be? That is the first thing that needs to be asked. Who do you need to be? And I'm going to give you an example. So Liz, I was like, we're going to talk about her in a second. Liz is a perfect example of somebody who identity work worked for her. Before working on her identity and her opinion of herself, she thought about the goal of starting her coaching business for 4 years. Like she just thought about it and she would talk herself out of it. And then it would come up again and she would talk herself out of it. And it was that same cycle of, I can't call myself a coach because I don't have a client yet. And if I don't have a client, I can't be a coach. But if she didn't call herself a coach, she couldn't bring on a client. And she really believed that she couldn't call herself that because of imposter syndrome. Now, after working on her identity, which is pretty much, I'm going to give you how to do this in a very simple way. We do this inside of Courage Driven Latina. We have literally a whole program section for this, but I'm going to tell you how you can do it at home as well, just because I want to make sure you get the value today. But Liz is now a booked out boundary coach. She introduces herself as a coach. She literally is energetically different. The way that we've seen her in the program has been night and day. She has been on a few different podcasts, actually, just in the last couple of weeks. I want to say she was on 3. One of them was mine. So she was on the Chingona Revolution podcast. And I think we talk about like how to set boundaries without losing relationships. That was the topic. And so now she's this boundary expert that, but not just me, but other people inside of my program have invited her over for Instagram lives, for podcast interviews, for different things like that. And it was all because she changed the way she started to think about herself. And if you are struggling with your identity, simply asking yourself the question, what story am I telling myself about myself? The doors to my signature group program, Courage Driven Latina, are now open, and they close on August 7th. Courage Driven Latina is a 12-month program for ambitious women to execute a courage project in 90 days. What is a courage project? It is a project or goal that scares you and excites you. I've had clients work on a variety of things, such as finally starting the business that they've been wanting to start for over 4 years, launching a podcast, and then actually uploading episodes and bringing people on to interview them. Many of them have built the confidence to ask for a raise at work or to start dating. Many have created Instagram pages and actually posted and stayed consistent and stuck to it. Others have pivoted careers, negotiated their salary, or left toxic jobs. You probably already have an idea of what it is that you want to work on, and whatever that project is, we are going to support you with the strategy to execute your project, as well as support you with overcoming any self-doubt that has possibly stopped you in the past. This program has been around for 4 years. The strategies and the frameworks have been tested over and over, not just by me, but over 200 clients that have gone through this program, most of which have told me either face-to-face or through DM that this program has been life-changing for them. 100% of clients inside of Courage Driven Latina say that they have clarity after joining the program. 98% say that they have more confidence. You are going to be a different person within the first 30 days of joining. And then imagine being surrounded by other ambitious women who are also working on projects and on becoming the best version of themselves. The community is unmatched. You are going to have access to some amazing, amazing women. If 2024 has not gone the way that you planned, I want you to know that it is not too late. When you join Courage Driven Latina, you will execute your first project in 90 days. And it gets to be fun and it does not have to be difficult. And then guess what? Because the program is an entire year long, you can work on 3 to 4, maybe even 5 projects during your time in the program. You have everything that you need to get started right now. But hurry, because the doors are closing on August 7th, and I don't want you to miss this enrollment. So go to couragedrivenlatina.com right now so that you can secure your spot. I will see you inside. And then the second thing you can ask is, what story do I want to tell about myself? So maybe a thought you might have is, nobody cares what I have to say. That's maybe a story you're telling yourself about yourself. But what you want to say is, my story is really valuable. And if I go create a podcast or even just go up to somebody in a networking event, they're going to find value in what I have to say. Okay, the second of the four strategies is a courage project. You've maybe heard me talk about this before. This is a little bit more of the how. This is the actual action taking. So this first one is who you need to be. This one is what you do. This one's actually a little bit more strategy focused. So a courage project is a project that excites you. It scares the shit out of you. Like it does need to scare you because remember, courage doesn't mean that we're not scared. Courage means that we are still going to take action even if we're scared. So it excites you, it scares you, and it makes the world a better place. It does have to have a bigger meaning, a bigger calling as well. Because if it doesn't make the world a better place, you're going to give up on it, right? Like, let's just go back to Liz. If Liz didn't care about helping people set boundaries and knowing from her own experience of how it was so hard for her to set boundaries, there's no way that she would have stuck with this type of work to then become a booked out boundary coach. So it has to excite you, scare you, and make the world a better place. And if you are working on your confidence, that is a perfect courage project because it makes the world such a better place, especially if you have younger women or just any younger individuals looking up to you, because the younger group learns from what we do and how we treat ourselves. So working on you makes the world a better place as well because you are a very important piece of the world as well. And here's why it works. A courage project works because it is simple, it is specific, and it is connected to a bigger purpose. And you always know what you need to do next. A courage project can be launching a podcast, starting a business, working on your confidence, writing poetry, dating after a divorce. And all you really decide is what actions you're going to take for how long and how you're going to take those actions. It's a very simple project. You just decide, okay, I'm going to post imperfectly on Instagram 3 times a week so that I can grow my social following. Or I'm going to record and publish one podcast a week so that I can teach people about generational healing. And this is Rebecca. Rebecca has been a client for a few months now, and her courage project all came about. I'm going to tell you exactly what her courage project was, but let me just quickly check this. The chat. Amazing. All right. Thank you all for your engagement. So Rebecca was feeling really stuck in her life and in her business. And Rebecca happens to be a business owner as well. But I think it's so funny because her courage project had nothing to do with business, nothing to do with it. And it made such a big impact in her life. So Rebecca is a badass. She has a marketing agency that makes more money than my business. And she does pretty much purpose-driven projects. So she'll work with government agencies to help them with marketing strategies. So like First Five, all of those different amazing campaigns. Her team helps with creating the websites and doing the social media stuff. I mean, incredible, incredible work. And when she came to me, she was feeling really stuck in her life and in her business, and she had lost motivation and didn't know how to get her confidence back. So after implementing a poetry writing courage project. So her courage project was write poetry 5 times a week so that I can process these negative emotions through expressing myself and then possibly share these poems with somebody else. That was her courage project. And her and I actually ended up having like a quick one-on-one call about this. And you're probably like, why would you give her this project? Well, stick with me. Okay, so what was happening with Rebecca is that she was having a creative block. She just needed to express herself. Like she was so stuck and in her head that creativity was going to get momentum going. And all we needed was the momentum to start. And oh boy, did it start. She did this project for maybe 2 months. And not only was she able to develop a lot more awareness with this difficult season she was going through, because we're all going to go through difficult seasons, she then had the creative juices going so much that she ended up starting a blog for her company, something that she'd been putting off for 2 years. She lost weight. She grew her confidence. And then get this, she doubled her sales in the first 6 months of this year as compared to last year. So we'll just use like easy numbers. Let's say that last year she did $250,000. The first 6 months of 2024, she did 500K. And it was her getting out of her own way. Notice her project was not even a business project. It was poetry writing. And now she's working on creating a second business. Rebecca's actually now in my mastermind, so we have continued to work together. And now she's working on creating an additional business as far as not just her marketing agency. Great example. Okay, so this is Janet, aka Flaca. She actually did a courage project specifically around business, and I'm going to tell you what hers was. So before, these are her words, her words. She said, I'm struggling with making a decision on what project to start next. And I'm also struggling with emotional trauma. I do not believe that I have the time, resources, information, or ideas to succeed in my own business. A little bit more about Janet. She is the co-CEO of a nonprofit. She also has a son with autism, so is a huge advocate for children with disabilities and making the resources for them a lot more accessible. She's very involved in her community. She was also working as a recruiter, and she got laid off. She got laid off whenever she joined the program, and she started a career coaching business because she was a recruiter. So it made so much sense. She was already helping people land jobs. So she said, after her Courage project, which was starting her career coaching business, I've been able to start a career coaching business, start posting more content on Instagram, begin practicing journaling and reading more often. Then I plan to start a podcast and a book eventually. There's just been a great amount of ambition and purpose. And she's now expecting her second kid, which we're all very excited about. It was a goal of hers that she had for a long time. So a lot of this stuff got put on pause, and that is the beauty of being in a community that's a long period of time, because it allows you to go through the ebbs and flows of life, right? Like if you're going to go on vacation, you go on vacation. Whenever it's business time, it's business time. Okay. Change 30. This is a new strategy. Have you all ever heard of 75 Hard? 75 Hard, I'm sure Kay has because she's my kickboxing instructor. But if you've never heard of 75 Hard, it is a challenge that you do for 75 days. It's actually a discipline challenge. And it's something wild, like 2 45-minute workouts a day. One of them has to be outside. Every day you have to take a progress picture, no alcohol. You have to read 10 pages of a self-development book. I mean, it's all this stuff, but it's really meant to help you practice discipline. And I mean, people get amazing transformation out of it. So what my clients and I decided to do is we decided to do a Change 30 challenge. So a business version or a life version of 75 Hard, where every day people had to do some type of movement or mindfulness or work on their mind. And then second, they did the first exercise, the first strategy I shared with you all. So what they had to do was the identity work. So they had to write what they thought about themselves and with how they wanted to think about themselves. So every day they did identity work. Every day they worked on their courage project. So whatever the courage project was that they were working on, they worked on that. So this 30-day challenge, you have to do it with a group of people, but it allows you to work on your identity daily and on your courage project daily, and then do it in a community. And this is new. I mean, we are still on day 29 of this. So we're towards the end of it, and there's already been so many amazing results. But the reason it works is because it gets you out of, oh yeah, Erica's here. She just put it in the chat. She said, yes, love it. So Erica actually is in the program, and she messaged me before. She's like, can I join? I love hearing the webinars. I was like, yes, come join. And it works because it helps you to take messy action. And actually, it was perfect for Erica because she had just joined the program and she was like, I don't even know what I want to work on yet. And I was like, work on this, just work on Change 30. But the reason it works is because it allows you to take messy action, which allows you to overcome perfectionism or fear of failure. A lot of times we're so worried about doing things wrong that we don't do it at all. But when you're in a challenge like this, especially with a group of people that are holding you accountable, it forces you to show up, even if it's imperfect. And the results that we've gotten out of this has been insane. So Vanessa said, this came just at a time when I was ready to recommit to myself and remember that we have a community that is showing up as well. I gained self-trust and consistency to show up. And then this is Paola. She said, this is the first challenge I've participated in. And it came at a time when I was feeling like I wanted to do all the things, but I lacked both structure and motivation. With this challenge, I gained so much self-trust, consistency, and learned to truly honor and prioritize myself. The requirement of posting daily has really allowed me to like hold myself accountable and have amazing conversations with the beautiful ladies who are also in this community. Overall, I trust myself on a whole nother level, and I realize and have proven to myself that I can accomplish whatever I set my mind to do. Thanks a million, mil gracias. So it's just the consistency of doing these things every day. And notice, this is literally two of the other strategies. It's just doing it consistently in community is pretty much what's happening here. So the fourth strategy is community. And we just actually heard from Vanessa over here. This is the same client. Remember when we were talking about why it's hard to change? And I was saying to you all that it's hard to change when your circle of people is trying to keep you the same. Like your mom is trying to remind you of who you are. Your partner is trying to remind you of who you are. Whenever you are looking to reinvent yourself, it is really important to have an intentional community around you. I don't think I would have left my tech job and started the coaching business if I didn't meet other women doing similar things online. I don't think I would have had the guts to do it because everybody around me told me that I was crazy. Vanessa is a perfect example of how community makes all the difference. So before, she actually has been in my program, Courage Driven Latina, 2 times. So she's been in it for a year and 4 months or something like that. And Vanessa used to question her ambitious goals because the people around her didn't really understand what she was trying to do, and they didn't really think that they were realistic. So she held herself back. And she said, I'm currently struggling with believing in myself, getting over the hump that it will all be okay. Well, this was probably, I don't even know how many months ago. This was probably 4 months ago that she said, or no, when she just joined the program. So a year and 4 months ago. And then she said, after having community, she said, I've met amazing women who are on the same path or different paths. And these women have helped me build the confidence to find myself and go after my goals and dreams. And the beautiful thing about this is that this photo was just taken last week. It's a photo of Vanessa at her first speaking engagement. She really worked on confidence while she was in the program. But the beautiful thing is that the person who got her the speaking engagement was another Courage Driven Latina. So the community is just amazing. So having people who are going to say your name in rooms that you're not in, people who are going to advocate for you, people who are going to look at your goals and not think that they're crazy. It's really important to have a community of people, even if it's just one person saying, I believe in what you're doing. And, we hear like, oh, you shouldn't need validation from anyone else. Well, newsflash, y'all, we're human. We are human beings. And remember when we were talking about the tribes back in the day? Well, if you were kicked out of your tribe back in the day, that was death. So our brains are literally programmed for wanting validation from the people around us. So it's just important who it is that you surround yourself with. And that doesn't mean go break up with your partner or never talk to your mom again. It just means create a new group of people who are already seeing this version of you that you want to reinvent to and holding you to that rather than holding you to the old identity that maybe people who've already been in our lives are going to hold us to. Okay, so let's recap. You want to reinvent yourself and finally start the project or the business that you've always dreamt of. What's stopping you is that you're waiting for something to change. You're waiting for something outside of you to change. And you think that the solution is to have the perfect circumstances, right? Remember, when I lose weight, then I'll be confident. When I get that raise at work, then I won't have to worry about money anymore. But the actual solution is to change who you are. And how do we do this? We do this through identity work, through a courage project, through a challenge like Change 30, and a solid community. And the best way to reinvent yourself and implement these 4 strategies is through Courage Driven Latina. So this is the part where I get to tell you all about Courage Driven Latina, who the program is for, what it is. So if you know that you've been wanting to join and this webinar has resonated with you, then stick with me because I would love to invite you to join us inside of Courage Driven Latina. I think the first question that comes up is, do you have to be Latina to join? No, not at all. This name came about from the perspective of a Latina trying to live the American dream and then eventually pursuing something that felt more fulfilling. We have individuals in this program who are full Latinas. We have people who are immigrants from Latin America. We have people who are third generation. We have people who are a quarter Latina. And then we have people who aren't Latina at all, but they resonate so much with this experience. I will say this program is definitely targeted towards women, especially women that are looking to break the cycle, especially if you have immigrant parents. It is very culturally focused for that group of individuals. So, what exactly is Courage Driven Latina? It is a transformational group program that will help you execute your courage project in 90 days. You get to reinvent yourself through identity work, through that courage project, and through Change 30 and that supportive community. The moment that you purchase, you get immediate access to the program. You also get weekly live coaching and access to exclusive in-person events and bonus workshops. You can sign up so that you can ensure that you get the bonus at couragedrivenlatina.com. And remember that bonus does expire tomorrow. So the 31st, Wednesday, the 31st. You can still sign up through August 7th, but if you know that you want that one-on-one call with a Courage Driven Latina coach, then don't wait. Within the first 30 days of Courage Driven Latina, you're going to go from having an idea to taking action on a project. You're going to go from doubting yourself to building unshakable confidence and learning the tools and the resources to deal with doubt and to change that identity. You're going to go from fearing failure to looking at failure as growth and redirection. And you're going to go from being worried about what your distant family members or maybe coworkers might think about you to having such a solid support system that you don't even think about those people. You don't even worry about them. You're going to go from procrastinating and putting things off to reinventing yourself with a solid plan in 90 days. The results speak for themselves. The last round of Courage Driven Latina, we did surveys and collected some data, and 98% said that they felt more confident after joining Courage Driven Latina. 100% said that they have more clarity since joining Courage Driven Latina, and 100% said that being in Courage Driven Latina positively shifted the way that they think and talk about themselves. That is the identity work. 100% of people in the program said they thought more positively about themselves, and that changes everything. 97.5% said that their community and support system highly improved since joining Courage Driven Latina. So here's what you get inside the program. You get weekly live coaching calls. You get a business call per month. And let me just quickly pause here because these weekly live coaching calls and monthly business calls are calls with the real human. It's either with myself or with my support coach, Maideli, who happens to be a graduate of Courage Driven Latina. And inside of Courage Driven Latina is where she learned that she wanted to be a money coach. And that's what she does as well, and also supports me inside of Courage Driven Latina. So every week you get to talk to a real human about anything that you're struggling with. You get to come to us for support on your courage project, support in your life, in your business, and in your career. You get immediate access to the Courage Driven Latina videos. Those ones you get to do on your own. The moment you sign up, you get instant access. And with those videos, you will be able to pick your courage project within the first 2 weeks. It guides you milestone by milestone. We've thought of pretty much everything that could possibly fall through the cracks because we've had this program for over 4 years with over 200 and something clients. So there's videos in there with what do you do if you feel like you picked the wrong project, how to make sure that you stay consistent until the end, what do you do if your friends, family, and partner don't support your project, all of that. You also get access to in-person events. You get Slack support. Slack is an instant messaging tool. So in between calls, if you're stuck, if you need support, you can always reach out to us. You also get Courage Driven Latina worksheets. This isn't just like a little worksheet here and there. It's an entire project plan to help you with your project. It helps you create a contingency plan. What am I going to do if I face this obstacle? What am I going to do if this other thing happens? We really do not let you fail in this program. You get access to a private podcast. If you can't make one of the weekly calls, no worries. We will upload that call into the private podcast and you get to listen. The investment was $2,999 for this program, and it was a shorter program. And now it's a year-long program at $2,222 if paid in full, or you can choose the payment option, which makes it 5 payments of $444.40. All the fours, all the angel numbers. So don't wait. Sign up at couragedrivenlatina.com. And as soon as you join, you will get immediate access to the Courage Driven Latina course. I want to remind you of the 48-hour bonus at the time of this webinar going live. It's pretty much a 24-hour bonus. So if you sign up before July 31st at midnight, California time, so PST, Pacific time, you get a one-on-one call with a Courage Driven Latina coach. On this call, we are going to help you pick your courage project and create a plan for your first 90 days. With over 200 alums, the number one complaint that we got from this program was that they wanted it to be longer. And that's why we decided to extend it for an entire year. And we now have the results of the individuals that have gone through Courage Driven Latina for an entire year. The results that we've seen in these clients are life-changing. I mean, they have completely reinvented themselves. Clients that have been in this program for a year have had the opportunity to work on not one project, not 2 projects, but 2 to 4 courage projects. I mean, I've seen people come into the program and work on their confidence, and then work on creating content, and then work on launching a podcast. I've seen people come into the program and work on their confidence, again, that identity work, and then they start speaking up at work. They negotiate their salary, and then I've even seen them pivot out into a different career or get a new dream job. I've seen people come into the program, work on their confidence, advocate for themselves at work, and then date for the first time. I mean, the results have been amazing because people were getting results in this program when it was 12 weeks long. Now imagine 12 months long. And the best part is that when they take vacation for a few weeks, they don't feel like they're missing 30% of the program. The fact that it's 1 year means that they don't have to attend every single call because we're always there when they need us. So now let's take a look inside of what is in the Courage Driven Latina curriculum. I've already mentioned that you are going to get immediate access to videos. Well, what are these videos? Well, the first introduction is how do we practice courage inside of Courage Driven Latina? We introduce the courage cycle, which is the strategy we use. We then talk about how do you overcome fear and how do you overcome doubt and how do you reinvent yourself? The first milestone, we help you pick and plan your courage project. We help you find clarity on which project to choose. We help you with what to do if you pick the wrong project. What do you do if your friends, family, or partner don't support you? And we also help you overcome perfectionism. We then help you complete your courage project plan step by step, and then you submit your courage project plan so that my team and I can give you feedback on it. Then you get to pick your path. And you can choose between the confidence path, which allows you to build confidence no matter what anybody says to you. We also help you with how to feel confident in your decisions. And then we also have a collection of podcasts that help you with your confidence. We then have the content creation path. So if you know that you want to create content, this is the path for you. We have a social media workshop in here that helps you step by step on how to figure out what your niche is, how to create content. And here's the thing. A lot of my clients started expressing interest in launching podcasts. And y'all, this podcast, Chingona Revolution, has completely transformed my life and my business. So we actually decided to add a podcast course inside of Courage Driven Latina. And this podcast course allows you to launch your podcast in 90 days. And we've had some amazing podcasts come out of the program. So Jess created the podcast, Vida I Wish I Knew Then. And big shout out to her because she actually created this before we had the podcast course. So she didn't even have the step-by-step guidance. And then we have Tatiana, who created the She Is Resilient podcast. And then we have Anaí that created the Querida Latina podcast. She's had so many amazing Courage Driven Latinas on her podcast. Definitely go check all of these out. And then we have Nicole, who has the Okay La podcast. Nicole already had her podcast when she came into the program. So her courage project was focused on growing the podcast. If content creation is not your thing, you can choose to work on a career courage project. So, in this path, we help you with setting boundaries and advocating for yourself at work. We help you with layoff anxiety. We help you with knowing when it's time to move on. We also have a collection of podcasts to help you with your career. If you know you've been wanting to start a business, then the CEO path is for you. We have a business courage project workshop there. And then again, we have those monthly business coaching calls so that we can support you with starting your business or growing your business. The fourth milestone is all about how to stay consistent with your courage project until the end. And then the fifth milestone inside of the videos is project audit. So let's audit the project you've just worked on and help you pick your next courage project, because you don't just work on one project, you get to work on up to 4. And you can take all the paths if you want. You can work on confidence, content creation, career, and CEO. You also get access to a bunch of bonus workshops. The Healing Your Inner Child workshop tends to be the most popular. So remember, you get the weekly live coaching calls, one business call a month, Courage Driven Latina videos, access to in-person events that I tend to create just for existing clients or past clients. You also get that Slack support for in between calls. You get immediate access to all of this, and you get that private podcast. So I'm just going to answer some questions that came up during the webinar, and then we will conclude this recording. All right. So I'm not sure I can commit for 12 months is one of the questions that came up. It's so funny because whenever we first started this program, people were so sad it was only 12 weeks. And now that we've extended it for 12 months, sometimes people freak out with like, oh my gosh, wait, I have to be there every Tuesday for a year. But the beauty of it being 12 months is that you get to go take vacation and not worry about missing 20% or 30% of the program, right? So the 12 months is for you to have support for 12 months. This does not mean you have to come to every meeting. I mean, do we want you to? Yeah, come to as much as you can, get the most out of the program. But the reason we made this 12 months is because life is going to life. We've had people in the program who lose a family member and they have to take time off. And when this program was 12 weeks long, they would have pretty much missed the entire program. So the 12 months is an opportunity for you to get support for a long period of time without the pressure of hurrying up and executing within less than 3 months. So what happens if you miss a meeting? No worries. We record every single meeting and we put it onto the private podcast so you can listen while you're on the go. I want to say a year ago, I had somebody who could not make the meetings. So she would listen the next day on her way to work on Wednesdays. And she had such amazing results without attending the meetings live that she ended up joining the program for a second time. So does this work for me if I don't want to start a business? Totally. You get to choose which path you pick inside of the program. You can work on confidence, on career, on content creation, or on CEO. We have a lot of people in the program who aren't business owners and they have no desire to start a business. But I want to remind you that the bonus is going to end on July 31st. And with that bonus, you get a one-on-one call with a Courage Driven Latina coach, and we will help you pick your courage project and create a plan for your first 90 days. We can even help you if you know you're interested in multiple paths. We can even help you decide, okay, first you're going to work on this and then you're going to work on this. So maybe you start with confidence and then we work on your career and then we work on content creation. We can help you create a plan for your time in the program. Alums from this program are diverse. I mean, we have people who are mothers, grandmothers. We have people who are dog moms, non-moms, stay-at-home moms, nonprofit workers, lawyers, tech workers, aspiring business owners, advanced business owners, people who are not interested in business at all. We have introverts, extroverts, people who didn't like college, people who are literally getting their PhD. We have social media influencers, and then people who are like, I have no interest on being on social media. So whoever you are, you fit in here because there's a common goal of everybody looking to become the best version of themselves. Everybody's working on this courage project that's allowing them to make the world a better place. So what if you don't want to post on social media? You definitely do not have to. Another question that came up during the webinar is, what if I don't have a lot of time? I work full time and I'm a mom. You don't need a lot of time. One of the big things that we help you do inside of Courage Driven Latina, especially with a courage project, is we help you identify what you're not going to spend your time doing, which then gives you a little bit more time. But for this program, I would say you probably only need 2 hours a week. And that's because our weekly calls are 90 minutes. And if you could just join for the first hour of that call, then that's fine. But I would say 30 minutes a week to work on your courage project is enough. It does not have to take that long. Obviously, it depends on your courage project, but we will help you figure that out once you join the program. What if I don't know what my courage project is? If you don't know what your courage project is, take advantage of the bonus and literally sign up today. Do not wait. But this program is set to help you pick your courage project, even without that one-on-one bonus call. So if you're listening to this after the fact, don't let that be the thing that stops you. Join now. It is not too late. You are not too old. Now is the perfect time to join this program. Another question that's so valid that I've gotten is, all right, is this actually going to work for me? Do these programs really work, and do they work for me? So while I can't really speak about other programs because I've had a variety of experiences in different programs, what I can tell you is that Courage Driven Latina has been around for 4 years. I mean, this program is not going anywhere. If anything, I've invested more and more into this program by hiring the support coach. So if I'm ever sick or traveling, we still have somebody there to help. And we have so many amazing results from the people in this program. I do feel like the results speak for themselves. But the reason that this program works is because, one, it's been around for 4 years. So we've really seen where people get stuck, and we've created frameworks to help you to not get stuck. The video curriculum is enough to get you transformation. If you just had access to the videos, those videos are going to help you from getting from point A to point B without the weekly calls. But then I also have people in the program who've only attended the weekly calls and haven't even watched the videos, and they have gotten results. So Liz is a perfect example who went from thinking about starting a boundary coaching business to now being fully booked with clients. She's not watched the videos. She admitted this when she was on the podcast. So that is a testament to how even just the weekly calls with the coaches and access to the community can be freaking transformational. So yes, this program works. We have the evidence for that. Go to couragedrivenlatina.com if you want to see the testimonials or if you want to see the different courage projects that people have worked on. Okay, so is this a course or live coaching? How is it that we get support? It's both. You get instant access to the course, and then you also get that live coaching. You also get support through the worksheets. You also get support through Slack, and you get support through the amazing community. I mean, you're going to have access to people all over the nation doing a bunch of different things. Your network is going to go from what it is now to literally having somebody that you can reach out to. If you're traveling to New York, oh, look, I'm going to go meet Courage Driven Latinas there. Going to Miami, let me meet up with the Courage Driven Latinas there. Going to Texas, oh my gosh, there's literally so many women in Texas that are in Courage Driven Latina or have been in Courage Driven Latina. How in the world do you justify this to your partner or your husband? That was a big question that came up. I mean, there's so many ways that I can answer this, but the first thing I'll say is if you do own a business, Courage Driven Latina is a business write-off. How can I justify this to my partner or husband? This question came up a lot. A few different ways. So if you own a business, this can be a business write-off. This is considered education. So just like college can also be a tax write-off, so can Courage Driven Latina. Definitely talk to your tax professional so that you make sure that it works for your exact situation. The other thing that I would say is, just like how we don't understand sometimes the way that our partners spend money, this may not make sense to them, but a way that you can justify it is, even though you don't really understand the value in this, I'm asking for your support. And the results show that I am going to be much nicer to myself by being in this program, meaning I'm going to be much nicer to you. And this program is going to help me execute this project that you've heard me talk about over and over and over. And I'm going to have a community that's going to help me execute that. So sometimes just asking for the support, right? Not really, they don't have to understand exactly what it is, but you're the one who's called to this program, not them. So we can't expect them to be like, oh yeah, I see the value in this. Just like we may not see the value in the things that they choose to spend their money on. All right, so I want to join, but I'm already in another program. A lot of the people in Courage Driven Latina are in more than one program. Personally, I'm in about 3 different programs. I have one program for business coaching, one program for teams and operations, and another program for money coaching and investing. And that should I actually find that people that are in multiple programs, Courage Driven Latina supports them to show up in their other programs as well. Because remember, the purpose of Courage Driven Latina is to help you build courage, take action on your courage project, and move forward. But I had somebody who joined, and her courage project was starting a lash business. And we were able to help her gain clarity on the business, start to take action towards it. But obviously, inside of Courage Driven Latina, we're not showing you how to do lashes. So she did need to go buy a different program to help her further that expertise. But Courage Driven Latina works really well with other programs. Another question that came up is, I feel like I might be too old. You are not too old. It is not too late. We have grandmothers in this program. And if anything, I have found that when you have more years of experience, you get so much more out of this program. You get results faster and easier because you have life experience. And I think that was it for the questions that came up during the webinar. So again, if you know you want to join this program, don't wait. This is the best time to join. Sign up at couragedrivenlatina.com. We will also leave the link down below. Thank you so much for staying with me until the end. If you have any questions, you can always email us or send me a DM on Instagram at the Erica Cruz. That's Erica with a K. And be sure to share this with a friend if you think somebody would find this helpful. Amazing, everyone. I can't wait to see you inside. I can't wait to support you in Courage Driven Latina, and I'll see you next week. Thank you so much for joining me this week. Make sure to visit theericacruz.com. That's Erica with a K, where you can subscribe to the show so you'll never miss an episode. You can help this podcast grow by supporting me with an Apple Podcast rate and review. If you took anything away from this episode, I invite you to take a screenshot and share it on social media so that your favorite badass Latinas can also check it out. Be sure to tag me at the Erica Cruz. That's Erica with a K, because you know I want to see it. If you're ready to join the revolution and be a part of the Courage Driven Latina community, visit couragedrivenlatina.com to get more information and join the waitlist. Thanks again, and I'll see you next week.